All right, welcome to Objective 9.4. So we're almost halfway through this module. So this one, I'm going to be comparing raw aerial photographs with orthophotos. And so what is a raw aerial photo? So that just means it's really as it is taken. You take that photograph as is and you take it and apply it. So there are three types of these photos. The first one is a vertical. So that means it looks straight down within 3 degrees of the vertical line, which is also known as the nadir. So remember when I was talking about the principal point, right? So the principal point is in the center of the aerial photo. The nadir goes straight down based on the perpendicular to the ground from the airplane. So if you can imagine if we tilt the airplane just a little bit, the nadir, which is 90 degrees from the aerial photo, or sorry, 90 degrees from the airplane, is now different than the 90 degrees of the actual film, right? So that's why the vertical, in this case, the vertical and the principal point should be really close to each other. When we are dealing with a lot of the scale calculations, we're going to use vertical. If we're looking at 3D imaging, we're going to be using vertical. So vertical is the most common type, and we really try to keep it within that 3 degrees of the vertical line. There's also low oblique. Low oblique looks slightly to the side, but it doesn't see the horizon. So these are really good for like trying to see sides of buildings. Some drones do this. And so if they fly high enough and they're pointing a little bit straight down, some of them will point a little bit to the side because they want to see sides of buildings and they're or like the uh, sides of a bridge or something along those lines. So still looking down, but not totally straight down, and it's not totally looking straight out to the side. The other one is high oblique, which is like looking straight out. So you can imagine taking a photograph from the window of an airplane. You're going to see the horizon. That's what it does. This is more for perspective rather than being for measurement. You can measure the side of a building, and if you get the full detail, it does remove some of the shadow. So if you're looking at like lots of dark shadows being cast, if you have a high oblique in a shadowed area, it helps kind of remove that so you can see what's going on the other side. So here's a couple diagrams of it. We have the vertical, which is straight down. So if you can imagine, if we have this as my positive, well, that's a negative plane, but the center of the negative plane is in the exact same spot as the vertical if we draw a straight line down. So that is considered vertical. The low oblique is when we have it tilted to the side. So the nadir of the airplane is now going straight down like this. You can see that this point is different from over here. Okay, so that is when the nadir and the principal point are not close. The same with high oblique, so you can see that we would see out into the horizon with this one. And if I were to use the nadir is not even in the focus of the high oblique image. So that's another thing that's a little bit different with the high oblique, is that the nadir is not in the photograph. So you can see kind of how the grids appear. This is a good example of them. So we can see like vertical, we can make it pretty well scaled. Low oblique, it's going to get smaller at the top and large at the bottom. And then high oblique is really high where you're seeing that horizon. So another thing that's different between raw and orthophotos is orthogonal. So orthogonal versus perspective. So this is a perspective projection and this is orthogonal. So you can see from a perspective projection, we're going to see the sides of buildings all the way along. And here you see the sides of the cylinder, you see the sides of a building, you see sides of a cone. It's kind of, and the cone's kind of offset. It makes things really distorted and looking kind of strange. This is what a raw aerial photo looks like. This is what our eyes see, right? Like when you look at a side of a building, all you're going to see is the side of a building. And your things that are further away are smaller and all of that stuff. So that is normal perspective. Orthogonal projections remove all of that. So they straighten everything up and remove all that distortion. So you can see that the building is no longer leaning out. You can see that the cylinder, I'm just seeing the top. the cone is like a perfect cone where I see the tip at the same spot in the center. Here we can see that this building is being pushed straight up. So yes, we do end up with this shadow behind. And that needs to be adjusted for. If you have overlap of different photos, you can usually clean this up a little bit by adding in the information from the other side. So orthogonal, straight up and down. Ortho basically means straight up or like 90 degrees. And perspective is like how our eyes see. Last thing about orthophotos is that they have a lot of post-processing that has been completed. So raw aerial photo has no post-processing. An orthophoto has a lot. In fact, you get to do an entire course on how to post-process aerial photos and to make them orthophotos. So the orthophotos adjust for distortions in the photos so that they are scale correct and mathematically correct. Oftentimes we put them in a TM projection, so like a 3TM or a UTM projection, just because the scale is correct in that, and we can say everything's reliable and mathematically reliable as well. So you see how you would take here's the actual observed, and then here's in a raw aerial photo based on a perspective projection versus an orthogonal projection, which we've adjusted for all those scale issues. And you see how the lines actually match up now. So a good resource I suggest is checking this out. This is a textbook, free textbook online that I found, hoping that it stays this way. So check it out, take a look at it. It's got some really good information in it. And then there's also, of course, all my image references that you're certainly welcome to go check out because they've got lots of information on their web pages as well. So that's it for 9.4, and we will see you for